All right, good morning. We're about three after, so we'll go ahead and get started here. First off, thank you all for joining today. We appreciate you and your interest in regionalism and regional transportation and the aspects of how regional transportation and regionalism can help solve local community problems. Just a little housekeeping, just so you know, there's a little QA button that you should have on your screen. Throughout the presentation, if you do have questions you would like to ask either myself or Ron Acapel, feel free to go into that button, enter the question. We'll be able to view it on our end and respond to questions at the end when we have a Q&A session. So let's go ahead and get started. On the next slide. So here's some brief introductions. I am Tyler Means. I'm the Chief Mobility and Strategy Officer here at the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, known as KCATA. I've been here for my second stint, almost 6 years. Previous life, I actually worked with Ron Acapel at the Mid-America Regional Council. I have a lifelong passion for things of mobility, urbanism, building community. These are things that I'm very passionate about, so I'm very excited to share some of my knowledge and some of the stuff that we're working on at the KCATA. Ron, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Hi, everyone. I'm Ron Ackelpool. I'm the Director of Transportation and Environment at the Mid-America Regional Council, and I'm really happy to join Tyler on the webinar today. Public transportation is a big part of our work at MARC, and I'll provide some more details about that as we get into the presentation.
Great, thank you, Ron. To get started, I really do love this line, this quote that our valued partners, Highline partners put together here. It's people don't stop at our city, county, or state lines, and neither should our vision for a unified region. If you think of where people live, work, and play, if you were to kind of see a map and see the region as a whole, you would see this almost like scattergram of activity centers of the high level of density of living, where there's entertainment such as, the Chiefs and Royal Stadium, or where the Current play, or where Sporting Kansas City plays up in Wyandotte County. And you'll see high density areas of employment, whether those are scattered downtown, down south, up north, east, west. They're all over the place. But what you end up seeing is this region that is multiple counties, multiple cities, two states, and it's an area about the size of Los Angeles, with about 2 million people that live within that area that move all around. And if you think about the way in which you conduct yourself throughout your day and where you go throughout this region, I doubt you spend a lot of time thinking about the number of cities borders that you passed, or the county border that you pass, or even the state line that you may pass as you go to work each day. But conceptually, we have these kind of boxes, these kind of lines that kind of dictate where space is and how we live and work. But conceptually, transportation as a resource or a community good has to be able to move freely past those lines. And as we work through our conversation today about regionalism, I want you to kind of imagine what the world would look like if we didn't have these borders, this ability to move across these lines. So as we move through it today, that's something that we're going to kind of tackle and talk about the ways in which the KCATA, or the Mid-America Regional Council, and the regionalism and the work they do really help us unify the region and move beyond those borders. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about the ATA here. Kansas City Area Transportation Authority was formed by a bi-state compact in 1965. A little fun fact, the delegates from Kansas and the delegates from Missouri actually met on the state line at about 45th Street to sign the compact that was eventually passed and ratified by the U.S. Congress. What this document gave us was the authority to operate in 7 counties, not only transportation, but economic development powers. And it gave us this quasi-governmental status, this ability to be a little bit like a state, a little bit like a private entity, but it didn't give us the ability to do taxing authority. And that's one of the challenges we've always had. But it does give us the ability to do unique things with transportation and move freely across the borders. We see ourselves as a champion for the region. We are one of the 2 major direct recipients of transportation funding, Mid-America Regional Council being the other. And what that really means is we have the ability to program funds that come from the federal government into local communities or no local neighborhoods or along corridors to do fun, exciting projects. We often look forward to partnering with different communities, whether that's neighborhoods, districts, or towns themselves, and working with them to actually put together projects that allow us to fund either capital transportation efforts or expanding transportation services. So we see ourselves as a champion of the region, and we always look forward to those partnerships we're able to develop to help program those funds and do unique things within our communities. Next slide. I'm going to hand it over to Ron now to go through some aspects of who is MARC and what are the fun things that they're doing over there in terms of a long range transportation plan, as well as a smart moves update later today. Ron?
Right. Thanks, Tyler. And looking at the attendee list, there's a lot of you that are familiar with both the ATA and MARC, but we're a little younger organization than the ATA is. We were actually created in 1972. We were created through an interlocal agreement of the large cities and at the time the 8 counties of the Kansas City metro area. We currently straddle the state line like the ATA does. We have 9 counties that are members of MARC, so it's the same 7 as the ATA plus Miami County and Ray County, southwest and northeast of the ATA. Counties. Region is complicated politically. We have 119 cities in the 9 counties and the 2 states. It's a growing region. We've got 2.2 million people that currently live in the region and covers a large geographic area of 4,400 square miles. And so MARC is an organization that's really focused on helping local governments and the partners of local governments in the region work on issues that cross state lines and or cross jurisdictional lines. And we do this with a vision of creating a region that really create strong communities that support successful, engaged, and healthy people, and vibrant, connected, and green places. And certainly, public transportation is a key thread to that vision. Our We have a lot of hats at MARC, but the one I'll focus on today is our role in transportation. We're designated as the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the region, which means that we're responsible for developing long-range plans, shorter-range transit or transportation programs that really address the federal funds that come into the region for surface transportation. We do this work with a lot of forecasting and modeling in partnership with a lot of stakeholders around the region, including the ATA. And we also have some roles in operating parts of the system. We coordinate traffic signals on a network of over 700 signalized intersection in the region. We provide information to businesses and commuters about different ways to get around the region through our Way to Go program. And we have a strong focus on transportation safety through our Destination Safe Coalition that we work in partnership with KDOT, MoDOT, and 60 other local organizations. In terms of our recent work, we've just updated the region's metropolitan transportation plan. It's called the Connected KC 2050 plan. And transit was a really important part of that update. Through the work that we did over the last 3 years or so to update this plan, the issue I think we heard about the most from the public was the need to expand and improve our transit system in the region. So we just heard very strong public support for this idea of an expanded regional transit network in most parts of the region. We also conducted a survey with as part of the plan update that was a statistically valid survey conducted by ETC Institute out of Olathe, Kansas, that demonstrated that there is pretty broad support for residents in the region to actually pay more taxes for transit. We didn't poll them on a specific plan or a specific tax mechanism, but we did ask about the parts of the transportation system that the public would be willing to spend more on, and the only one that polled above 50% was the regional investments in public transportation. However, the other big theme in our plan update was we have not been able to identify sufficient revenues back in 2024 and 25 looking forward of the existing sources that we use for transit in the region to really implement all the service that folks are wanting. We have a 54, $55 billion plan over the next 20 years. We had another $14 billion or so of other investments that we've not been able to identify funding for. And so I think that's a really critical issue that we are working on right now. And transit is certainly a big part of that unfunded need for the region. So I think I'm going to turn it back over to Tyler with this slide, and we'll keep going.
Great, thank you, Ron, and I appreciate that update. So one of my favorite parts of this job is that I get to meet with a lot of community leaders, a lot of elected officials, advocacy groups, etc., and really understand and get a view, a challenge that they may have through their lens, and really kind of brainstorm with them and build ideas and concepts and talk about how we can better service that community. We at the ATA say that we connect people to opportunities across four pillars. That's housing, jobs, healthcare, and education. Those four pillars really are what drive us and really help us kind of focus our work and allows us to program ourselves and our time more appropriately to service communities. But all in all, our focus is community development and figuring out ways that we can service the local communities. Next slide. Thank you. Some of the big things that we do here, and we've done for a very long time, is we offer services for vulnerable populations. This can be done in a number of ways. Since 1990, when the ADA was passed, the American with Disability Act, have provided service to persons with disabilities through specialized transportation services that do door-to-door service that allow us to put vehicles to move eligible recipients along our bus routes and throughout our community to connect to community resources or social services or medical appointments simply by scheduling rides through our services. We also have a variety of other solutions that go beyond those hours that we offer those services with a curb-to-curb solutions, such as Freedom on Demand, which is a subsidized solution of 5310 federal funding that we receive from the Mid-America Regional Council to provide trips that allow people to move more freely, spontaneously, if they are a qualified older adult or person with disability. We also offer a variety of other mobility solutions like Iris and fixed route bus. And back in the days when we had our fare system in place, as we look at returning to a fare collection system, we offer a variety of subsidized solutions to make sure that people like veterans and individuals who have to visit social service organizations, frontline service organizations like women's shelters or family shelters, are able to get transportation so that they can get the resources they need to help lift themselves up. So when you think of folks in your communities that may fit these various paradigms, we here at the ATA are here to help you address the mobility challenges that these individuals may have and ensure that they have the solutions they need to commute to the region. When we think about jobs, job access is a big aspect of who we are at the ATA. We do an onboard survey annually, and if you go and look at how people utilize our services, almost 69% either use it to get to work, to find work, or to get to education. So conceptually, what we really do focus on is moving people to help lift them up. That's usually many times connecting them from their homes or nearby their homes to job locations that may not always be centrally located. It's not uncommon to see a employer locate, especially if it's a manufacturing or a distribution facility, on the fringes of the community where the labor pool that they need to pull from is more centrally located. So conceptually, we work with these folks. Usually, hopefully at the onset, we're able to really line up funding for a longer term private investment to really build a public-private relationship around that. But we have to connect them from that labor pool that's in the center city out to those areas. And this is a really big opportunity for us in terms of public-private partnerships, because what we can do is work with those employers to ensure that we're able to pull funding in and leverage that against public invested dollars and stretch those monies even further by getting federal monies to ensure that the end cost to a community is as low as possible so that we can build multiple years of providing that transportation solution and ensuring people have job access and opportunity for employers to have a very strong connection to their labor pool. One of our prime things that we always want to make sure we're doing is giving access to those goods and services in healthcare and education, really allowing people to lift themselves up, to have a more fulfilling, full life. Um, these are certain things that various medical facilities that are located throughout our community. Many times, maybe an individual will have a general practitioner doctor that's very close to them, but if they have to go see a specialist, that specialist may be located further out in a healthcare campus or a medical campus that is not easily accessible. And so we at the KCATA, as a regional transportation entity, coordinate services across state lines and county lines to do the best we can to ensure that people that access those healthcare goods that may not be readily available to them. Our real end goal by leveraging all these various investments, whether that's state, federal monies, local dollars, or private investments, is to reduce the end cost of transportation to individuals. One of my big passions and the reason why I continue to work in public transportation is I really do believe in a focus of trying to reduce the end cost or the household expenditure of transportation for individuals. Because if we're able to do that, that puts more dollars back in their pockets, allows them to invest in themselves and their families, and to create new opportunities for themselves. So I see us building a public transportation network as one of the key regional initiatives that needs to be done in order for us to help lift up people when they need it most.
Thanks, Tyler.
Next, kick
Yeah.
it back to Ron.
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, all of the values that Tyler just walked through are really important elements of the Smart Moves plan, which has been the region's kind of long-range vision for public transportation since the early 2000s. We've updated it 3 times since then, and we're in the process of updating it again this year. And so I wanted to spend some time talking about what is in that plan, what we're doing with it right now, how it may be different from the plans we've developed in the past with the ATA and other transit partners around the region. So the this is a conceptual map of the plan that we developed back in 2017. We had a special focus in this update looking at the issue of jobs access for transit. And it's certainly important to provide access to other services around the region and places around the region, but that in 2017, job access was a very particularly hot topic in the region. The system that we proposed is really designed around a number of key elements. It's designed around a network of fast and frequent routes that are on corridors that connect really major activity centers throughout the region, and those are what's shown in the conceptually in the colored lines there on the map, and then supported by a network of other bus services on fixed routes, some express services that would operate at probably less frequency than the fast and frequent network, which was intended to be 10 to 20-minute headways on those routes. And then supported by other demand response services. And, example of that more recently has been the IRIS services that have been deployed around the region. Paratransit services are part of that as well. And then providing locations throughout the region to connect all of these services together, to also provide places to focus development on the transit assets that might be available nearby, and those are what's shown in the dots that are kind of scattered around the region there. That system it's been updated incrementally since the 2000s. It has really provided guidance for all of the major transit investments I think that we've seen in the region in the 21st century, particularly the Kansas City streetcar corridor is identified there. There have been major investments made on the Metcalf corridor. We are currently looking at improvements on the State Avenue and Independence Avenue corridors as part of a study looking at a bi-state east-west corridor. There are other east-west corridors that are identified on that as well. So this has been a durable plan. We've implemented parts of it. We've not implemented as much of it as we hoped we would back in 2017 when that plan was updated. And if we could move to the next slide, the update that we're working on right now in 25 is really trying to kind of recast this service, starting more at the bottom up and connecting things regionally. So we've been talking with local leaders around the region about transit needs in their communities and really identifying what's still important out of the out of the 2017 version of the plan and what's new that we need to consider. We're updating the cost estimates that we had for the services back then. There's been quite a change, an increase in transit cost to deliver transit services, not only in Kansas City, around the country, but it's a factor that we're needing to pay attention to. We're looking at what the actual viable funding mechanisms are that are currently available in the region, things that would not require new state or federal legislation to implement, things that local governments are have the capacity to implement on their own. And we're gauging where around the region there's more readiness to act, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on upcoming slides. So what we've been doing so far is, as I said, starting out by talking with local leaders around the region, in places that have had transit service in the past, places that have it now, places that don't have it, to get their priorities about what a transit system in the region should look like. We are developing new cost estimates for those services and some of the new ideas that we've heard in those conversations. We've done some legal research to see what actually could be implemented more quickly than not, and what options are available in the region for that. And then right now we're in the process of developing a better sense of what the actual benefits of the new service might look like in terms of new ridership, economic development in the region, impacts on air quality and congestion, some of the typical things that we talk about as goods for transit, and trying to really identify how that may play out in different parts of the region as well. So not just relying on national statistics about the value of transit service, but what we could actually expect to see if we expanded services here in the Kansas City area. We can move to the next slide. Some of the things that we've heard and we're taking as initial findings from the conversations we've had already. This overall plan really does have good bones. This idea of fast and frequent services and mobility hubs and particularly demand response services. There's been a lot more interest in that, I think, since we've seen some of the new services like IRIS deployed around the region that as an important element of a transit system. We've also discovered that we think the financial gap that we need to provide better and more services in the region really is attainable. Looking at what capacities different cities and counties have, and what other options might be available for new revenues, they're doable. It's going to take work and will, but they are out there. What we are learning, though, is that the opportunities and the readiness to implement these really does vary a little bit across the region. There's still interest in it, but it's not uniform. If we can move to the next slide. So the initial priorities we're hearing is that this idea of the fast and frequent corridors captures a lot of interest around the region. Regional connectivity is an important part of it, but we're also hearing from local officials that they're also interested in how transit might serve better circulation within their own communities. And we are updating the plan based on those needs. We've also developed some scenarios for what could we do if we can't do it all at once? How could we tackle it in phases? And so we're doing some of that work right now to develop some different scenarios about how the plan might be implemented. Next slide, please. Available funding mechanisms. So what we've learned is that there are general authorities for counties and cities to be able to raise local revenues for public transportation, primarily through sales taxes or property taxes. Those have existed for a long time. There's appears to be some available capacity for those mechanisms in different parts of the region. On the Missouri side, there are a couple of other options that we've identified that may be interesting to pursue further. One of them is the Regional Investment District legislation that was passed back in 2007 that provides for the creation of a multi-county or multi-county districts that can levy sales taxes to provide for public transportation services. This would authorize counties that wanted to participate together on this to levy up to a half-cent sales tax with voter approval. And so that's something that we're exploring a little bit further. The district has been created, but the the plans and the ballot initiatives have not been implemented since 2017. So this is an untapped funding opportunity. In the state of Missouri, there also are provisions for some counties, Class 1 counties, to create a county transit authorities. There are currently, I believe, one that's in existence in Missouri right now in the Kansas City area. That mechanism is really only available to Cass or Platte counties. We've not found any similar other special mechanisms in the state of Kansas that would allow the Kansas counties to create anything other than through standard local sales and use taxes and property taxes. So the work that we're focused on right now is we're collecting stories from transit riders, from businesses and residents that are interested in transit to also get better ideas about what people in the region would like to see on the transit plan. I mentioned the benefit cost analysis that we're doing should help us tailor some of the investment packages for later, and we're planning to have that work wrapped up by the end of this year. We will be documenting the plan update early in 2026, and implementation is really going to depend on political will and funding to be able to move forward. We think that there are some real positive indicators, but we think there's a lot of work to do still to move us forward. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Tyler.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. Just real quick as a reminder, if you do have questions, there's a little Q&A box down there where you can go and open it and type in questions, and we will be getting to those here momentarily to answer those. I do see some trickling in, so some folks have found it, but if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to post away what you're thinking. We'll be happy to respond to it momentarily. Before moving on, I do want to kind of point out a few things Ron said that I just could not agree with more. One of them is that the Smart Moves plan, it does have good bones. It has some really great corridors and some really great ideas about the way in which transportation can be connected. The importance of that plan is the fact that it has been vetted through multiple various bodies within the Mid-American Regional Council, various committees, the actual transportation boards, as well as the actual full board. So it's had eyes on it from local officials, which is great because that means it's been kind of established and bought into. There is always room to update. We know that just like everything else in a community, we continue to change. We're not a stagnant community. So as new activity centers develop, as new points of interest come up, there's always that need for us to kind of adjust transportation plans, new corridors, new service ideas to ensure that we're kind of building out a robust solution that reflects what communities hope to put in place within their own borders. Next slide, please. So kind of a few things here to recap on that are really important powers or uses of KCATA. When we have written there that, KCATA can act as a conduit for local, state, and federal funding. It does go beyond just the programming of federal dollars through various direct funding opportunities. We use a network of lobbyists at the federal, state, and local level to help us get our voice out, to get heard, to get in front of politicians and committees at these various governance levels to ensure that we are getting as much bang for the buck as we can, as well as trying to make sure that we are directing legislation to better reflect how we can spend transportation monies within the Kansas City region. Ideally, how we envision this is if we work with a partner or if one of our partners even have a project that may be at the federal level and they need help us kind of checking base on it, we're more than happy to tap into our network of lobbyists on your behalf to follow up on that and see how projects are going or what more KCATA may be able to do to assist in getting a project funded at those various levels. One of the key things that we do is when we look through the idea of transit-oriented community development, TOCD, which I believe there will be another webinar later on that's more focused around that. with our expertise in-house that really does focus on the economic development aspects of the ATA. But one of the things that we do is that transit part of the TOCD is coordinating and melding the land use network with the transportation network. One of the ways in which we can help invest federal funds into new developments is by unlocking dollars that are associated to that transit-oriented aspect. So whether that's housing, commercial, or whatnot, what we have the opportunity to do is really evaluate, work with developers, put together an RFP, find the proper developer, put together the cap stack that allows us to capital stack with the developer and our funding tools to make projects in areas where people wouldn't likely invest an opportunity to invest. So think of areas that are usually underfunded, and that's a really good opportunity for us to really kind of hone in on ways in which we can help community development and build new residential, commercial activity centers throughout parts of the region. Um, One of the other things that we can really do, and this is kind of looking at more of the immediate term here, is the things that we are really trained to do. We have a very trained staff in our planning and scheduling department, folks who have years of experience in understanding how transportation is, one, designed, and then how it is implemented, and then on the day-to-day basis, how they can monitor the daily operations, ensure we're meeting key performance indicators, getting our buses out there on time, on task, and make sure that we meet any compliance that's required of us, whether that be at the local, federal, or state levels. These are all different aspects that we do on a daily basis, and we love working with regional partners to evaluate best ways to service your community. One that really comes to mind that I do want to share is, we used to have this Route 28. We still have it. It goes up by Raytown, and Raytown used to invest in that route. And then in conversation with them, they were kind of seeing that that's not the best route for them because the residents of Raytown had to walk a sizable distance to get to the stops that were on the fringe of their city there. So in conversation with them, we found out a better way to service their community would actually be to expand the 63. So that's the route that actually goes down 63rd Street into Brookside and Warnall, and then goes all the way into Raytown here in the near future. And by listening to our partners and working with them, we were able to use our planning skills and our scheduling skills to redesign the service and implement a solution that better reflects what the community hopes to see in their day-to-day operations of their city. Um, we can actually take this a little bit further in some of the aspects that we're able to do as well. Because of our expert staff in procurement and billing, we're actually able to help, especially in situations where it might be a third-party operator operating an on-demand solution. We can handle the invoicing, the service operations, ensuring quality service at the best cost possible. And we can work with those operators on your behalf with our expertise to ensure that you're getting the proper reporting for your respective boards, councils, commissions, etc., so that we can work almost as an extension of your staff to assist you in making sure that you're getting the quality service you expect for your citizenship. Next slide. So when we talk about looking ahead, this is our first webinar in a series of many to come. And there's a lot of other aspects that we'll be doing that are going to really foster the conversation around regionalism, especially as we look at ourselves as the KCATA and through our partnership with the Mid-America Regional Council. If we go to the next slide. I do want folks to keep in mind that we understand that there are a variety of challenges a local community may face. And we at the AT are here to be a helping partner, here to assist you in kind of breaking down those borders, commute people to various aspects throughout the region. And no matter what the challenge is, we're here to find those immediate solutions, whether that's data analytics, visualization, mapping, so you can kind of see the problem holistically and work with us to think through solutions that best service your community. We also have short-term and long-term solutions where we talk about the expansion of services or creating new transportation services to service aspects of the communities that are part of our 7-county region. And then, of course, when you look at big term projects, that transit-oriented community development cannot be overlooked. It's such a valuable tool and opportunity for us to utilize our transportation network and our economic development powers together to really foster new growth and new community development opportunities throughout the 7-county region. Next slide. We do want to make you aware of some stuff that's coming up. One is to stay engaged. The Move KC Regional Mobility Summit is October 3rd. We have a full packed agenda that runs from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be in downtown Kansas City, Missouri at the Evergy Center. The idea behind this whole summit will be to really just build excitement, engagement, and get a feel of where people see their holes, perhaps in terms of the transportation network, where we're doing well, where there's challenges, where there's opportunities. And so we look forward to having the conversation with our regional partners, electeds, and riders at that event in order to better formulate transportation solutions for the future. There will be more webinars that are coming up that we hope you will attend as well to get an understanding of other aspects of the KCATA or even perhaps the Mid-America Regional Council and how they offer regionalism and it can help foster various aspects of transportation economic development throughout the region. We kindly ask that you spread the word as you see events. If you're interested, if you have friends, family, coworkers that are interested, let them know. We love to see new faces and see more people involved in the transportation space. And I don't want the conversation ever to stop here. As you can probably tell, I'm kind of passionate about this kind of stuff. And so if you ever want to have a conversation or you have additional thoughts, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at tmeans@kcata.org, or you can reach out to Ron at rona@marc.org to ask us any questions beyond today that you may have. I do want to make you aware that you will probably be receiving an email with this fantastic piece that Highline Partners put together. It's called Driving Us Forward. It has some single pagers that kind of look at some strategic plan aspects that we have in place at the ATA, as well as some great case studies that kind of outline how we can learn from communities like Denver, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Miami. So I really hope that you will take the opportunity to thumb through that and look at that and realize the value that the KCATA can bring to the region and what we can learn from other regions, our peer regions around the United States. With that, I do believe we're moving to Q&A. Um, Ron, how would you like to go about it? You want me to just kind of go down the top here, or?
Well, a lot of these look like questions for ATA. Some of them are questions for Mark. One question that caught my eye was about how each of you and I got to work today. I'm actually telecommuting myself, and I gotta confess, most days I drive into the office. I live in the Brookside area and down in Kansas City, Missouri, and our offices are in downtown. Tyler, how'd you get to work?
Today was my little guy's first day of school, so I also drove my car today. I had to get him there for what they had was a little photo, and then we had our pre-planning thing. So it was great to be able to be there and take him to school today. I use the various modes though to get around the community, biking, walking, being particularly in my neighborhood how I get around. But I do ride the bus to and fro for lunch, coffee, etc. near our offices here at 18th and Troost. But many days to get to work, I too do drive, given the amount of distance that I have to cover on a daily commute. Um, Brandy Chandler asked a great question. We've worked with her before. This is about our fare collections system that's been in the media, and us returning to fares has been in the media. It's really around the idea: will there be like subsidy programming or fare programming returning for social services and community school districts? Yes, we don't want to move away from that. When we did have a fare, it was a value program, our employer pass program, our university pass program. We used to have an opportunity pass program where we worked with various social service organizations, and we want to continue to offer those opportunities to ensure people are getting the transportation they need at a good price. What else do you see here? The same question about how we got to work today. It was asked, are we doing anything with the data gathered from Transit App? So if you've never used Transit App is a fantastic tool. It is actually the sponsored third-party app that ATA kind of utilizes for our transportation network. They pull our general transportation feed specification. That's the really nerdy way of saying all the information that tells you where the stops are and where the bus is going. It gives you that real-time information in the app so you can see when a bus is coming to pick you up and if it's the right route, as well as access to our other various on-demand services. But there's these questions that they'll ask you in there, asking you about, is the stop safe? How is it on the bus? That is a tool that we are evaluating of paying into to get that information and better utilize that information. We really see some unique opportunities with it, especially to address in the field challenges, such as if lights are out at a stop or if there are such things as broken glass at a stop, we can pinpoint those and kind of focus our crews to get out there and clean up those challenges or address those safety concerns in a more timely manner so that we can better respond to our rider base.
So there's a question about what role MARC and the ATA would play in putting a regional transit tax on the ballot, if that tax would go towards the ATA or would it require some new reorganization specifically for the district. And I think this is referring back to my comments on the regional investment district that legislation in Missouri. The way that one would work, the legislation is written in a way that MARC actually drafts a plan for the uh, county or counties that would be involved, and then would submit that plan to the counties for consideration to place on the ballot. The funds that would be collected by the counties and then routed through a committee that would be established by appointees of the county or counties that is collecting the tax at MARC for distribution. It's really silent about what happens after that. The services could be, in most likely scenario, would be that MARC would then contract with the ATA to provide those services, but legislation is open to allow other arrangements, and we have some of those other arrangements in place in the region right now. Johnson County, for example, does contract directly for services there. So that's a detail that really needs more work and more conversation.
Yeah, it still in its infancy, the idea of putting any kind of taxation or any of that effort together, but definitely fruitful conversation for the future. Um, there's a question about initiatives that involve the larger region. So our focus or what we're limited to by our compact is the 7 counties that were listed there. There's 4 in Missouri and 3 in Kansas. And I believe Ron mentioned that it is a 9 county district for the Mid-America Regional Council. But with that said, we don't stop at those borders. We do go to the state capitals, so both Topeka and to Jefferson City, to find unique funding opportunities. If there was interest from a transportation solution that was to be multi-county, that is something we would run through either KDOT or MoDOT, respectfully, to design those solutions and ensure we know what our role is in playing in those longer style commutes. If you are not aware, there is a bus, the K10 connector, that runs from Johnson County to Lawrence, Kansas. It does connect the 2 KU campuses, in fact. So that is a multi-region solution that has been put in place, and both Johnson County and Lawrence/Douglas County put funds into that to provide that service.
Um, there was a question about the opinion survey that I talked about earlier, and whether or not the residents of Johnson County were more reluctant to fund public transportation than other counties in the region. Actually, we saw strong support in our survey in Johnson County for the idea of expanding service and providing funding for it from the residents that replied to the survey there. And we did make sure that survey was also valid at the county level around the region, so it wasn't just in aggregate for the full 9 counties that we surveyed, but it was also um, it was applicable to at each county as well.
Great. There's a couple questions here, and I'll take them both with one answer. It's about building partnerships with KCATA, or how advocates can better coordinate with KCATA or MARC in terms of engaging various municipalities or groups, et cetera, to be invested in public transportation. I would say that please use our contact information. Reach out to us. I love advocates. I love them being involved, and I care about their passion. So if there's things that you have in mind, in which ways in which we may be able to coordinate and work together to better transportation throughout the region, I'd be all ears listening to them and working with you to find ways in which we can utilize each other's strengths. In terms of partnerships with things like medical facilities, again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always up to that. We love the idea of finding ways in which we can work better and ways in which our services can better service what you do day in and day out at those health facilities. I see a question about individuals with disabilities sitting at the table and contributing accessibility. We do a lot of unique things. I really do appreciate that question. One is we have a kind of like a writer support group, an Right KC advisory committee, advisory group, and we take applications for that group to participate. And it does cover people of all walks of lives from all over the region to really help us kind of harness an understanding of transportation and hear the challenges that are out in the field so we can ensure our services are best servicing people. And that does have individuals with disabilities on it. Another way in which we coordinate a lot with individuals with disabilities is through various advocacy groups. There is the Federation of the Blind. We actually meet with them quarterly to hear about the challenges they're experiencing within our ADA paratransit services and ways in which we can better coordinate and address any challenges they may be having. And of course, we work closely with Whole Person and Alpha Point, which are two huge advocates and employer of persons with disabilities. So we do make sure that we coordinate with them on a regular basis. And we actually love to utilize them as kind of like a beta testing group when we're doing something new to make sure that anything we're putting out there, whether it be an app or something of that nature, it does meet the needs of persons with specific disabilities, whether it be visually impaired or other mobility challenges, so that we can ensure that the solutions we're putting there are for all citizens. Let's see. I see a return of fares question about a Right KC app. So many of you may not know there used to be a mobile app that we had in place that you could buy mobile ticketing and it was a flash pass that you could then show an operator that you had purchased a pass. Yes, anything that we do move forward with in terms of a fare system. You may recall the old fare boxes we had on there. They were actually from 1999, so they're a little outdated. We'll be moving in a new technology and kind of future-proofing our solution. So there will be a mobile app functionality as well as like a reloadable cash card. If any of you have ever traveled to Chicago, New York City, they have those reloadable cash cards, similar style model that we're trying to put in place here that allows us to kind of integrate more successfully with our communities, but also something that will be in place for at least 15 to 20 years ahead of time. So we're putting a lot of future aspects into this fare collection system.
And there's a question about providing service in more rural areas of Jackson County, like Oak Grove, and are there any plans to address the lack of transportation in these areas? I mean, it is a challenging question. In the Smart Moves update that we're looking at right now, we think that yes, we do want to provide services in the more rural parts of the region. One of the ways to do that will probably be through demand response services like Iris or other microtransit services that in a lot of places where there may not be the population density to support a lot of frequent fixed route services. There are other ways to address that, and we're looking at that as part of this update. There's also a related plan that also touches on an earlier question that we're working on with the ATA. There's what's called a coordinated plan for public transportation and human services transportation in the region, and that's something that we update periodically. We're also working on that this fall, and so that is a plan that we will be working on. It has a big impact on some of the Federal Transit Administration funds that come into the region.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up, Ron. I know that there are holes in terms of services for especially persons with disabilities within the region that they can't find a really good, affordable solution. And when those are brought to our attention, that does give us an opportunity to kind of focus on those via those planning processes to ensure that we're trying to find solutions that best service all individuals within the community. Um, there was a question on here about changes coming down the pipe for KCATA users in the future. I will take this opportunity to inform folks that if you are not aware, the streetcar expansion does open October 24th, and that will now take it beyond Union Station, south to UMKC. Not UMKC, yeah, it's UMKC, that's right there. It's 51st Street, I believe. with that change coming on October 19th, please do be paying attention to our rider bulletins. Some of our routes may be experiencing new changes as we work to utilize that as a key spine of the transportation network through the city of Kansas City, Missouri. So some of our services within the city of Kansas City, Missouri may be being altered to better serve that spine and ensure that we're able to provide good coverage throughout the community. The biggest one on mine is that we're going to build a Brookside Waldo connector that will kind of grab from the plaza stop that's going to be built and run it southwards to the south side of the Waldo area. So we'll have this kind of like almost like a shuttle network that allows that continued service for individuals that live south of the last streetcar stop.
And so there was another question about rail transit and how it relates to some of the planning work that we're doing. The fast frequent corridors that I showed earlier are really mode agnostic. I think that the basic assumption is that we would probably expand the bus services and improve bus services in those corridors first. But the Main Street corridor was one of the original ones in there, and it's got the streetcar working on it right now. There are a number of active studies right now looking at the potential of expanding the streetcar network. Kansas City, Missouri just initiated one with the streetcar authority to look at a potential extension to the Jazz District along 18th Street. There's a study that was recently completed to take a look at the feasibility of expanding the streetcar network north into North Kansas City across the Missouri River, and so there's been some planning around that. There's also work looking at an east-west corridor on 39th Street and 31st and Linwood as a potential expansion corridor. I will say the details about funding for those are a little bit outside of the work that we're doing right now with the Smart Moves update. I think our theory is that those fast frequent corridors could grow over time and be updated in the future. That's what happened with the Main Street corridor. The Main Street Max preceded streetcar on that, and now we're seeing the opportunity to redeploy some of that bus service elsewhere in the region with the streetcar expansion. We're still looking at rail expansion in different parts of the region. Those are really being done on more of a case by case basis than as an overall plan for the region at the moment.
Great, thanks, Ron. There was a question about local jurisdictions service redesign studies. So kind of break that down, how KCATA does a lot of service redesign efforts. Right now, probably the most robust one is what we're calling is a route restoration study. And it's kind of twofold. One is to address that streetcar coming online and how we can reorient service to best service that area. And I can answer a question that also came up in this answer. For example, with the main max that will be going away as the streetcar becomes that main thoroughfare from down to, well, River Market all the way down to 51st Street, those assets can be reallocated to continue the same number of miles or hours. But also that point that Ron made earlier, when we reallocate those resources, some of this may be able to make more fast frequent service in areas. And that is something that we are looking at as well. One of the things that's working within that route restoration study is also I'll call it a CSA light, a comprehensive service analysis light. So what we do there is we look at all of our assets that are being used within a certain area and we evaluate, are we using the best way we can? Are these routes the best routes? Are they going the right places? They connecting people to the right locations? And this gives us an opportunity to make suggestions and recommendations to our board as well as to the respective governances to say, here's a way in which we can better serve you. This is what we're hearing from the riders. It does have a sizable amount of public engagement, but it's a really good opportunity for us to reevaluate and utilize our assets more appropriately. I see a question about access on elections. For folks who may not be aware, back when we had a fair it was free to ride certain services, whether it be fixed route or paratransit, on election days because we wanted to make sure people were able to access those polling locations. With new technologies and stuff that have been brought on board, one of the things that we definitely could start doing is on days, whether it's a major election or a smaller election, pinpointing those locations and ensure that people have access to those locations for free to vote as we return to a fair. I think that'll be a big thing that we'll be undertaking. It's something that we find privilege in doing and an opportunity to provide and making sure people are using their democratic right to vote. So it's a service that we'll continue to offer. And to the gentleman who posed the question, it is an opportunity for us to expand it beyond major elections.
And I think we got time for one or two more questions. But there was one that I wanted to respond to with a question about access to the airport. We have last year completed a study that looked at providing access to KCI from not only the current service that runs from downtown Kansas City, Missouri, but other parts of the region. And since then, Johnson County, Kansas has applied for MARC and received some funding to at least test out services from Johnson County to connect directly to KCI. And our understanding is that the hope is to get those up and running in time for the World Cup next summer. And so we've been working to make sure those funds are available and will be move forward that the county will have access to test that service out. So on the MARC website, if you are interested in seeing those airport transit plans, it's the KCI transit study that's available at marc.org.
There's a lot of great information in that study. Last thing here is the shameless plug for the summit. Move KC Regional Mobility Summit. Is there a finalized flyer is the question. Yes, so the way this is work is that there is a distinct invite list for certain elected officials we're hoping to have on board, and then it will be open for general public purchasing, and that information can be found on the KCATA website. I really do hope that if you are able to attend, please join us for the conversation, keep the conversation going. This is only the start. We want to kind of grow this robust grassroots effort to get the people involved who are very interested in regionalism, find our champions. So if you want to continue the conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to hear from you and talk to you more about it. And I believe with that, I will say thank you.